Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening. Health system staff pushed to the brink have labelled the current climate as the worst it's ever been. Tasmanians have been asked to stay away from our 2 major public hospitals unless their case is a genuine emergency, with fears the system is buckling under demand.
Despite major reform and record funding, Tasmania's hospital system is still broken.
Our members are telling us, both at the LGH and the Royal Hobart Hospital, the emergency department situation and the environment in which they're working is the worst that they've ever seen.
Tasmanians have been urged to reconsider going to the state's major hospitals. The Department of Health says the LGH and RHH are seeing significant demand.
Premier, after 10 years in office, have you driven the health system to the brink of collapse?
It is prudent to manage that situation as best as possible. We've employed a record number of nurses.
What about outcomes?
Doctors.
Unplanned staff absences and hold-ups discharging patients to aged care have been blamed, with elective surgeries cancelled. The Nurses Union says sick leave rises when staff are overworked.
We've been raising the concerns around burnout and exhaustion, and yet the Tasmanian government is still relying on the existing workforce to pick up the slack, work the additional shift.
The government's spending $8 million a day on health and $12 billion over 4 years. But the cash splash hasn't stopped the bed block.
I am more than happy to put our record of investment in health against yours.
It's not about money, it's about how you actually perform as a government, what the outcomes are for people, and on that measure, this government has failed.
28 beds were added to the Royal Hobart Hospital Emergency Department earlier this year. Further expansion is due to begin in March and be completed by 2026. Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
And while the state's public hospitals are struggling to cope with a surge in demand, the situation is just as dire in the private system, with union members launching industrial action against Calvary. And it's not just the health system stretched, with child safety officers walking off the job.
Private hospitals not immune to the cracks in the health system.
Our members are drawing a line in the sand to say enough is enough.
ANMF Tasmania launching fresh industrial action against Calvary hospitals statewide, saying workers are burnt out from chronic staffing issues and wages aren't high enough to attract new candidates.
It is unsustainable and they absolutely need mandated minimum staffing levels. Calvary need to put an offer to our members that will enable them to recruit to vacant positions.
Calvary says it recognises workforce shortages are impacting all services and is committed to working with the union to address its concerns, and it will continue to prioritise patients' care throughout the industrial process. Union members aren't ruling out more action.
It's quite likely that our members will move to stop work meetings until Calvary come back to the negotiating table.
Following in the footsteps of child safety officers who today walked off the job.
The backbone of the staff that are still here at the moment care about the children of Tasmania. That's why they're still here, putting up with the horrible workloads.
This is as grave as it gets. We are talking about young Tasmanians.
Concerned hundreds of vulnerable Tasmanian children are being left without support.
This situation is a ticking time bomb. We are seeing young people let down, not getting the support that they need because there is not enough child safety officers.
Calling on the government to immediately address understaffing.
All we are asking for is to have enough child safety officers so that they can work with young Tasmanians and give them the support that they need.
We'll continue to work with staff and unions and others to ensure that we're supporting our child safety staff.
Yet another sector crying out for help. Victoria Easto, 7 Tasmania News.
The state government has been accused of not having the evidence to back up its case for the proposed Macquarie Point Stadium. A parliamentary inquiry finding some of the claims aren't supported by figures, also concerned about the impact on our GST share.
Looking for the devil in the Mac Point Stadium detail, the Public Accounts Committee has put the plan under scrutiny. From ministers to armed service veterans to future tenants, many had their say. Their evidence now tabled in an interim report.
The evidence received by the committee suggested that there were assumptions that couldn't be validated.
Among the at times stinging findings, it says some stakeholders weren't consulted until 2 weeks after the Cabinet agreed to it. The state government accused of being unable to provide evidence to support their public statements, while doubting the federal government's $240 million support will be exempt from the GST.
If it's not quarantined, then that amount of money is basically clawed back through reduced GST payments in the future.
We've got a Premier focused on building a stadium in Hobart. He's completely out of touch.
The government defending its processes.
We'll continue to work with a range of different stakeholders, take on board a range of different views.
But also warns.
It's very clear, no stadium, no team.
However, the proposal was finding new support in other quarters. A report by the former boss of the Wilderness Society claims the stadium could generate hundreds of millions of dollars for the economy every year. Using modelling from Hawthorn's impact of playing at Utah's stadium, Russell Hanson claims Mac Point could generate $226 million a year. At worst, it could still deliver more than $50 million in profit over 20 years.
If we don't get the stadium, the AFL would sit back and say, you're primed to fail.
It's a pretty transparent piece of public relations as opposed to a detailed and credible economic analysis.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Hundreds of West Coast workers have been left digging for answers after the owner of the Avery nickel mine declared voluntary administration. The government says the underground operation still has a bright future, but Labor says it's the one at fault for the company's financial woes.
It's a West Coast moneymaker that's officially spent its last nickel. Avery nickel mine going into voluntary administration today.
There is a change in power. The administrators could decide to shut this mine down tomorrow.
It comes 5 years after the mine reopened under Mallee Resources management, the company digging itself into a deep hole of debt.
It's a matter of public record that that a $50 million liability to a shareholder. That's ultimately a matter that the administrator and the receiver will work through.
Labor pinning the blame on the state government in question time.
The government said that they would provide $3.5 million of support immediately, and they provided zero. I know that Avery bent over backwards to provide the information that the government wanted.
The commitment dates back to 2018 but was subject to terms and conditions which shareholders rejected. The future of more than 200 jobs now looking rocky.
The worst case scenario is that the mine closes.
However, Mallee says the mine will continue to operate on a business as usual basis, producing and selling nickel concentrate without any retrenchments.
The key thing for our community and for politicians is that the mine continues to operate, workers continue to be employed there, suppliers are getting paid, and indeed critical infrastructure projects at the mine continue to be developed.
Commodity firm Hartree Partners will support the mine with funding while it's in administration. How long that lasts is anyone's guess. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
Forestry Tasmania has faced court in Launceston over alleged breaches of the Forest Practices Act. The Wilderness Society Tasmania launching what it's calling the first private criminal prosecution against the company.
In our view, the age of logging forests is over and the era of urgent forest protection is upon us.
The matter has been adjourned for a submissions hearing on November 9. An alliance of environmental groups is calling for a seat at the table in efforts to save the Maugean skate from extinction. It's claiming it has been left out of a rescue group tasked with keeping the native species alive and well.
When it comes to saving an endangered species, these groups say there's something fishy going on. 11 Tasmanian non-government organisations have penned a joint statement calling to be part of the newly formed Maugean skate recovery team.
The problem we have here is that Everyone has been invited to the party except for environmental groups from Tasmania.
They claim they weren't asked for their input, despite having a sharp focus on conserving the West Coast native fish, which saw a population decline of almost 50% between 2014 and 2021.
We want to collaborate because the Maugean skate is 60 million years old. It is absolutely crucial that we save it from extinction.
The group is also calling for an immediate stop to all salmon and trout farming in Macquarie Harbour, and the government to refuse renewals on marine farming licences at the end of November. The federal government's acknowledged the recovery team needs to act now to bring the species back from the brink of extinction, hinting at a conservation announcement soon, adding it will continue to work with the salmon industry and Tasmanian government to clean up Macquarie Harbour. The state government says it was the one which convened the recovery team, which will work with stakeholders, scientists and the community to develop an action plan, and has already taken steps to protect the species, including imposing gill netting restrictions.
This is a treasure of Tasmania. It's found only here and we should protect it as much as we can.
Ruby Cairns, 7 Tasmania News.
The lower house has passed a bill mandating minimum window covering standards for Tasmanian public housing properties. The private members' bill is aimed at bringing those properties to the same standard as private rentals.
And what it means is that they'll be treated exactly the same as those people moving into private rentals, that their kids can get privacy in their bedrooms and they can make sure that they're able to heat their houses appropriately.
Government support was won on the basis of amendments which give providers 30 days to install the coverings. 5 flood-prone communities are being educated on what to do when disaster strikes. The state's emergency service has released flood guides for Geeveston, Orford, St Mary's, Railton and South Hobart. The government pumping $1.7 million into the initiative.
The frequency and likelihood of natural hazards is increasing, and what we need to do is make sure that we're taking the appropriate preparations across the state.
Because we have a mountain sitting just above our suburbs, it means that flooding isn't something that comes over days, it comes within minutes.
The guides are available on the SES website, with more to follow in the coming months. Hobart's Youth Arts and Recreation Centre has exploded in colour and festivities as Welcome Week gets underway. Dancing, sports and food joining an interactive chalk mural are on offer for new community members to add their personal touch.
This is the first time that we're having Welcoming Week here, and it's to really make our city an inclusive, safe and really secure place for individuals to come.
I like it because you can dance in and meet a new friend, and you can sing in song, you can eat in, because the people here is very good.
This year's theme is Power of Place, as more multicultural students choose Tasmania as their home.
And an Ulster showdown is brewing, with the grand final just days away. Undefeated so far this season, St Virgil's has confidence on its side, but will have to put up a tough fight to conquer University.
Uni have tested us this year a few times, so we know what they're going to bring. We know it's going to be a tough match, but again, if we can just control our things that we have all year, hopefully we can come away with the win.
University's captain is hoping he'll be back on the green for the big finale after sitting on the sidelines with a kidney injury last week.
Being such a big game for us and big for the club, it'll be really hard to sit out, but we'll see how we go, see how I'm feeling tomorrow.
The match will kick off at 2 p.m. at North Hobart Oval this Saturday.
Good evening, Hobart. 18 degrees today, Launceston and Burnie 14, Devonport a high of 15. Above average temperatures over the east and southeast, the warmest Campania and Bushy Park with 19. Friendly Beaches 18 degrees, Grove 17, King Island 16, Flinders Island, St Helens and Strawn all 15. The north and west found a few scattered showers today as that widespread low cloud moved over Tasmania. A band of cloud extends from south of WA to just to our west, linked with a cold front heading of course our way. An onshore stream has cloud over southern Western Australia. Tomorrow a low deepens over Bass Strait. The cold front splits in two, a bit tracks to our south, the rest up over the mainland. Winds northeasterly to 25 knots over most waters, lighter winds over the southwest lakes. Strong wind warning for most of the coastline. That's from waters from Flinders Island clockwise right around to Stanley. Hobart tomorrow, 20 and a shower or two. Showers for Cygnet 19, 21 for New Norfolk, a shower or two as well. 20 the top for Launceston, bit of a shower or two. Showers increasing for Devonport 17, 19 the high for Campbelltown, fine and partly cloudy. Showers increasing though over the north and northwest. Burnie 16, 18 for Strawn, Smithton 17 degrees. And for the east tomorrow, a top of 20 for St Helens, Swansea the same. Fingal mostly sunny as well, the trifecta there of 20s. On Friday, showers less frequent over the east, small hail in the west and snow lowering to 500 metres. Conditions clearing over the north and northeast on Saturday, windy over the south and west. And on Sunday, fine and partly cloudy as showers ease from the west of the state. A sunny 20 degrees in Perth tomorrow, just 15 in Adelaide and showery. Showers for Melbourne. Sunny weather though for Sydney and Brisbane.
And that wraps up your local news for this Wednesday. I'm off for the rest of the week, so Murph will be sitting in the chair. Thanks for your company this evening. Good night.